Good morning, Ratmen. Welcome to the home of smooth jazz for your nighttime commute. We're going to get real low with it. I'm your host, Jay, and my co-host is Corgi. Today's episode is brought to you by the most sensual smooth jazz, and that jazz is played by rats!
I never want you to say sensual ever again.
Sensual.
I would rather be deaf completely. Take away the last of my hearing. Take that 70-30 and make it 0-0.
70-30. I didn't realize one of them was so good.
Yeah, 70% of my left ear.
Oh.
I just don't pay attention most of the time. That's the secret. Am I deaf or am I just ADHD? True question, yes.
So I know I said in the previous couple episodes that we were going to be doing the Genestealer cults video. This, clearly, if you've seen the title, isn't a Genestealer cult video.
Well, they steal Iceberg genes.
The reason for that is I started doing the Genestealer cult video. I didn't really enjoy it. And then I took a break to do this for fun. Then went back to the Genestealer cult video and finished it. It's finished. But I'm an idiot and stubborn and stupid. And I do this for fun. And I didn't like the Genestealer cult video, but I could have just released it. There was no financial incentive to like make sure it's accurate. But then I, like a fool, spent money on A Day of Ascension, and I'm reading A Day of Ascension so I can actually understand the Genestealers better and understand why they do the things that they do, because that wasn't clear in the codex. So once I finished that book, a full 200-page book that I've started reading, technically listening to, we'll finish the Genestealer cult video.
Jesus Christ.
Also, sorry.
Listening to books.
We took a week off and then Corgi broke her neck, so we took another week off. Sorry about that.
I didn't break my neck. I just sprained it or something. I don't know.
Sprained it for 3 days. You sprained it while playing fucking Abiotic Factor.
Yeah, well, you know what? Fuck you. It still kind of hurts. But luckily not enough to be painful. Well, I'm fine. I'm not dying yet.
So I didn't make this iceberg because I considered making my own iceberg, but I know I'm going to fuck it up. I know I'm going to put really obscure things up to too high. And even this, there were some things that were in the high levels of everyone should know this. And I didn't know it. And then there was stuff like in the really obscure, no one knows this. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I know exactly what this is. My knowledge is so... I just dive deep into the lore. So I ignore a lot of the surface level stuff because it's just not important. But
I'll worry about that later.
This comes from a user called A Sad Ravioli on Reddit. Ravioli. Fucking.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyway.
What do you mean?
This was created 3 years ago. So some of this is theories or interpretations of certain things, but have since been given a definitive answer. So, one of them was a theory, we'll get to it, about how the Horus Heresy ends. Because the Fall of Siege of Terror book hadn't come out yet. It's out yet. We know how Horus's and the Emperor's fight went. So, that has an answer. But for right now, this video also serves to help Corgi with some of the primer stuff that she doesn't already know. Because I
barely know.
Before the start of this podcast, I gave her a brief summary of some of the events.
And I've already forgotten.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Yes.
So,
all of them.
We're starting on tier 1. Really, really simple tier. Number 1, the Imperium are not the good guys. This, despite being number 1, seemingly has gone over a lot of people's heads. They are...
Are we really that surprised?
Yeah. They're a brutal, fascistic theology that is falling apart at the seams. Theocratic system that is falling apart at the seams. Everything sucks for everyone who is in the Imperium. No one's having a good time. Just, it is built off slavery and death and destruction. The system, in its own right, They don't even need to do anything. They don't even need to worship chaos. They're feeding chaos with the amount of death and decay and destruction that they create. The amount of excess and drugs and everything. The only thing that humanity doesn't really feed is Tzeentch. But probably something that they do feeds Tzeentch. Some pursuit of knowledge or something like that. But if you think the humanity are the good guys in 40k, you're wrong. The whole idea is no one is the good guys. As I've said to you, Corgi, in a previous episode, there's some iffiness on some of the other factions, like the Votann. As far as it seems,
the Wotan Peninsula.
The what?
The Wotan Peninsula, isn't there something that's similar? Wotan Peninsula.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Votann. The Votann, but they're also a new faction, so I'm sure as the lore expanded, we start to see, oh, this is where the Votann are actually kind of like low-key evil. Other than that,
Votann.
They're just sort of up to some shady shit. Someone said in a previous comment that there's something to do with clones and how clones work with the warp and how they're feeding clones. I don't know how clones...
feeding clones to the warp?
No, I actually genuinely don't know what the fuck they were talking about. But I read it and I'm like, I remember hearing about this. There's something up with the warp and clones, but I don't remember what it is. It might be something to do with the fact that souls exist in the warp and maybe you're stealing souls from the warp. Clones, historically, in 40k, don't tend to end well. Usually, the people who are making clones are chaos worshippers. The Dark Eldar make a lot of clones, and Fabius Bile makes a couple clones here and there. A lot of people make a lot of clones, and they're never good people.
You get a clone. A clone.
And then the Votann are also making clones, and there's probably something not great there. But we'll move on from that. The second point, once again, these are some easy stuff. The Horus Heresy. Just, there was a guy, Corgi, called Horus. Horus Lupercal. He was, quote unquote, the Emperor's most beloved son. He was one of the 20 primarchs. And he was not the first to turn to chaos, but he was the head of all the primarchs. He was the war master, which was the highest rank the primarchs could be given. And he turned to chaos, though none of them really sort of turned to chaos consensually. There was a lot of corruption that went on. If I recall correctly, Horus got stabbed with a dagger, which corrupted his soul, and that's what turned him to chaos. But I might...
Damn, don't you hate that?
I might be adding something. The only one I think that actually turned against the Emperor and was never corrupted was Angron. They literally just went to Angron and were like, hey, you want to fight the Emperor? And he was like, boy, do I. Because, yeah, the Emperor fucked Angron over super hard. Like, you gotta picture, the Emperor's not a good dad. He's a really bad dad. But he also kind of clearly had his favorites, and he was a good dad to some of them, where he's like, you're my favorite, I'm gonna treat you nice. And then he'd walk over to Angron and just kick him in the face. And then go, I'm a good dad, aren't I? And then just kick Angron in the face again.
You know what? That's just normal parents in Australia.
It's
like, this one's my favorite. This one is...
The Emperor literally had the opportunity to save the lives of every single one of Angron's friends, and he went, nah, fuck it, I'ma kill them all. Just killed all of Angron's friends, just to prove a point. Just to prove he could. Because Angron... The Emperor was like, come with me. And Angron was like, no, I gotta save my friends. And Emperor went, cool. I'ma let you, do your final battle, your final stand, and just before it starts, you, a demigod, and the only chance that these slaves have of surviving, I'm just gonna teleport you out, and the slaves can get massacred. Get fucked. You prick. Yeah.
Not on my watch.
I would also be eternally pissed off if someone did that to me. But the Horus Heresy ended with the death of Horus and the death of the Emperor. And just sort of the very slow death of the Imperium.
So the whole thing is the Emperor's a shit dad? I think we
Yeah.
already knew that. All that dude ever does is sit in a fucking chair.
Well, this was before
whinge.
he sat in a chair. This is what caused him to sit in a chair.
What, abusing abusing one of his children and barely parenting the others?
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of Warhammer, everything going wrong could be summed up to, hey, maybe if you were just a better dad.
Warhammer, daddy issues. We all have them.
There's a great clip from Always Sunny where he reads his like fan letter to some baseballer, Chaz or something, and the baseball like league actually had him react to it, and he says Mac's letter is, "Oh, do you have a bad relationship with your father? Me too." And the baseballer's reaction is, "I'm sorry you have a bad relationship with your father. Have you tried being a better son?" I feel like that's how it would go. You know, Malcador would come to the Emperor and be like, "Hey, maybe you should be a better father," because I'm pretty sure Malcador did warn him, and the Emperor would go, "Maybe there should be better sons. I'm not gonna parent well. Just be good sons."
Yeah, just, if your parents hate you, just be better for them, man.
So this comes us into the third part. Remember how I said there's 20 primarchs just then, Corey?
Yeah, there's 20 primarchs.
Yeah, there's actually 18.
18 primarchs.
Yeah, but there's actually 19. But there's actually 21. But there's actually 20. So, we have the 2 lost primarchs. And what I mean by there's actually 21 is, as we know, because this is like the only thing that you know about the primarchs, is one of the primarchs is literally 2 guys. But no one knows that he's literally 2 guys. Everyone thinks he's 1 guy. So
Alpharius and Aegon.
So as far as everyone is aware, there's Alpharius and Aegon. But he's actually Alpharius and Aegon. So there's actually 21 primarchs. But they're 2 guys, but they're also like the same dude. It's a warp clone sort of situation. They're sort of like the one soul split in half. But there are 2 other primarchs. However, they are officially removed from history. They did something and just got completely expunged from history. They officially don't exist. To speak of them is completely forbidden. There is like statues of all the 20 primarchs, and then there's just 2 empty plinths. And then people go, "Hey, what's up with the 2 empty plinths?" And they just go, "Don't worry about it. It doesn't matter." But they did something before the Horus Heresy that was so bad, they got wiped from existence, as far as general knowledge is. From what little that they've given out, it seems like, because the primarchs, so the Emperor is the father of the primarchs, right? He created the primarchs. And then
his big daddy.
Yeah, the primarchs are the fathers of the Space Marine legions. So the Space Marines are, it's a sort of thing, but they're kind of like clones, but they're not actually clones. Their DNA is inserted into a regular person, which turns them into a Space Marine. They call themselves the sons of the primarchs. They are the children of the primarchs.
Honestly, all I can think of is that just sounds a lot like Spartans from Halo.
Sort of. Think of the Space Marines as Spartans from Halo. And then I don't know what you consider the primarchs. But
demigods?
Yeah, they are functionally demigods. But the primarchs, the 2 legions of the 2 lost primarchs seemingly weren't punished. We don't know what happened to them. We don't know what they were. We don't know what their whole deal was. But when the primarchs disappeared and were erased from history, all of a sudden the Ultramarines just rapidly grew in size. So the general theory, and is put forward in the lore alongside the fan theory, is that whatever the primarchs didn't cause punishment of the Legion, and the Legion was just assumed into the Ultramarines. So it wasn't like the entire Legion and the primarchs turned traitor. But
honestly, I love that concept of just forgetting a god. Like, what could they have done so bad that the whole universe has to forget them and is not allowed to remember them?
It's strongly implied they were killed by... The Space
Iconic.
Wolves. I've just completely forgotten the leader's name.
Space Wolves?
Yeah, the Space Wolves are a Space Marine Legion. They're... My brain just wants to say Ferrus Manus, but that's Iron Hands.
I thought you said Ferris as in like Ferris Bueller, and I was like,
Space
Jesus
Wolves.
Christ.
No, Iron Hands, the Lehman Russ. I tried to Google it. I didn't even figure it out. I thought of the tank. So Lehman Russ is the leader of the Space Wolves, and he strongly implies that he was the one that killed the other two primarchs. His role is sort of the Emperor's executioner, and he is sent to kill Magnus the Red during the Horus Heresy. I think it's Magnus the Red. Yes. And he's very much, let's fucking go. This isn't the first time I've killed one of my brothers.
It's alright.
So, that is the tippity top. We got Imperium of the good guys, Horus Heresy, the two lost Primarchs. Now, just the tip is we've got the more obscure stuff. These are stuff that you sort of know, or a couple of these, probably should have been a lot lower than they were. But we've got the Eldar are doomed. So, the Eldar Corgi are one of the alien races in 40k, and they're the reason Slaanesh exists. They're elves. They're space elves. And they live forever, so they just started having sex with knives and just...
Hold on. Sorry. Was that my hearing, or did you just say they had sex with knives?
Yeah, sex with knives. And...
So they basically became Pinhead.
Yeah, probably. But they started having sex with knives. They started doing all the drugs. Just having a really, really weird time with it. Because they live for so long, and they're just like, let's have a good time. And started having sex with knives. And then all that sex with knives started the creation of one of the Chaos Gods, Slaanesh, the god of excess. And Slaanesh...
Yeah, excessive knives.
Slaanesh ate them all. Like, literally, ate them all. And the only ones that...
Nom nom noms?
Yeah. The only ones that didn't die were the ones that were in the webway, I believe. There were a couple that... the Exodite chapters, I think. And the Forge World. Forge World is a different thing. Also Warhammer. Craft World. Got that. They sort of went, oh, the sex of knives thing, this won't end well. And then it didn't. They created a god. And now Eldar, when they die, their souls get eaten by Slaanesh. The Dark Eldar have a sort of way around it, which is continuing the whole sex with knives thing. Whereas
Why the hell does that fucking loophole
it refreshes their psychic energy and they don't die, sort of.
Their psychic energy?
Yeah.
Don't you mean just the burners?
No, their psychic energy. Because Slaanesh is constantly, like, eating their souls. But if they continue to have sex with knives, then they're feeding Slaanesh, and, you know, it's a whole thing. I need to read more into it to tell you exactly why it is the way that it is. But basically, they're all being constantly drained by Slaanesh, and they've figured out if they just work for Slaanesh, they'll get away with it. The other Eldar, on the other hand, when they die, their souls go into a soul stone that they specifically create. And then that feeds their technology and their weapons and stuff.
Oh, great. They get Soylent Greened, except instead of being turned into food, they're turned into power.
That means there's a semi-sentience in their soul, right? And to the Eldar, it's great because their semi-sentience exists and they're, you know, powering stuff. They're still working for the people. Even in death, they still serve. Whereas the alternative is we get eaten by the god of excess. And just...
So it's fuck knives or get eaten.
Yeah. So if you die as an Eldar and your soul stones aren't secured, you just get eaten. Rip. It's... So they don't have a great life. And their gestation period is really, really long and complicated. So they can't really have kids to outpace everything going wrong all of the time. They don't have the resources or the population to like colonize planets and rebuild. And they're just slowly fading away as a species. And, you know, that's the idea of this, is the Eldar are doomed. Nothing that they can do will fix what's happening. They can't recover their species. Their species is dead. They, for all intents and purposes, are extinct. However, when Slaanesh emerged, she killed all of the gods. All the Eldar gods, for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
And some survived, but they survived in sort of aspects and they don't really have much power. One of the only ones, if not the only one that escaped unsaved, is Kekarak.
Kekarak.
Yeah, he has a plan to restore the Eldar. No one knows what this plan is. He's not telling anyone because he's a god and he doesn't have to tell people. But he has made some moves in that. Guilliman, one of the primarchs, died. Kekarak brought him back to life because the resurrection of Guilliman was important for his plan. So they're doing stuff. The lore of 40k moves very, very slowly. So we might have an answer to what his plan is in about 20 years real time. Or maybe it'll never happen because that requires like an actually substantial upheaval of the lore and changing things. We get to the second one. The Golden Throne is slowly failing.
Oh, I've actually heard that one.
Wow, that's amazing. Genuinely. So the goal
that they have to keep feeding psionics.
Yeah, psychers. Psychers.
Yeah, psychers to them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it risks fucking opening the wall.
So he is what is keeping the demons from attacking Earth at bay.
Yeah, he's the shield.
And he's also guiding. Magnus accidentally opened up a tear in the warp to Earth. So Earth is constantly...
Thanks a lot, Magnus.
Look, Magnus did nothing wrong, and I will die on that hill. Maybe if the Emperor wasn't such a shit dad and told Magnus exactly why he shouldn't be fucking with the warp, Magnus wouldn't fucked with the warp. Instead of just gone, "Oi, stop fucking with the warp!" And then he went, "But why?" "Because I fucking said so, you cunt!" And then he hit his kid. Maybe if he was a good dad.
This is yet another reason why you should always be open with communication with your kids. Instead of just being like, "Don't do this thing for no reason. Just don't do it." Because we're humans. Of course we're gonna fucking do it. "Don't press this red button." I'm gonna fucking press it. I don't care if it nukes a small country. I see big red button and I get told don't push it. I'm fucking slamming that shit.
I either filmed the sketch and didn't edit it and upload it, or I edited and uploaded it. But I did make a sketch specifically about Magnus, how Magnus got his name. It was the punchline was stupid, but the whole sketch was just Magnus and the Emperor fighting about opening the rift to the warp, or just fucking with the warp in general. But
I pressed the button.
The Golden Throne, as we sort of get to a bit later, we don't like, and by we I mean like the Imperium doesn't really know what it is or how it works, and seemingly kind of neither does the Emperor. He just kind of winged it, and he's now stuck in it, and it's slowly breaking over time, and the amount of psychers that were required to be sacrificed daily to keep it working has increased quite substantially, and like its ability to keep the Emperor alive is decreasing. So
wasn't he specifically like, "Please let me fucking die so I can do this properly"? Like, "No, we're gonna keep you alive."
Up in the air. It seemed initially, from like, as far as I was aware, he told like them, "No, put me in the chair." But then, as of 4 months ago, the final Siege of Terror book came out, and he never said, "Put me in the chair."
Okay, so it's just fucking stuck in a vegetative state. Just like, great.
I think it was Rogel Dawn. No, Dawn was dead at this point. Maybe it was Rogel Dawn. One of the primarchs.
One of his advisors, wasn't
No, it was one of the primarchs. Found his body, and next to him was a tarot card. And they went, "The Emperor's telling me to put him in the chair." So they put him in the chair. He might not have been saying, "Put me in the chair." Maybe he was also saying, "Put me in the chair." At the very least, he's gaining power while being in the chair. And if they probably
Just
turn the
a bit
chair
of
off, he'll become a god. Or he'll just come back as a regular emperor again. Up in the air.
Yeah, how many times does he come back to life again?
Well, he's immortal. Exactly how many times he's come back to life, up in the air. But he is a perpetual. So he is immortal. If you kill him, he just comes back to life. They could just kill him and he will come back to life. He is a perpetual. But whether...
He's William Afton.
whether he comes back to life... how perpetuals work depend on the perpetual. Some... you stab them and they just, Deadpool come back to life immediately and they're like, I'm fine. Others, they resurrect 20 years later. Others, they resurrect immediately, but in a different part of the galaxy. Exactly how and when they come back to life, up in the air. We don't know exactly what type of perpetual the Emperor is, or if he's even a perpetual. We'll get to that. The Emperor's a little bit weird.
I fucking noticed. Hey, I'm this guy. Please don't make me a god. But also, oh my
he
God,
might
people are
not
treating me
be
like a
human.
god?
We'll discuss this
I
later.
hope he's not fucking human.
He's either human or is not, and we don't know.
Yeah, isn't that pretty much everything in fucking media? They're either human or
Well,
not.
I don't mean like he's either human or is a god. He might be a robot. We don't know.
Honestly, I think that would be fucking funny if it just turns out that plugging him in was exactly what he wanted to know. It's just the first fucking internet in that universe. Now loading emperor.exe.
So we'll move on to the next one, which is the Imperial lie. So the Imperial truth is that the Emperor is a god. Humanity is destined to rule the galaxy, and all aliens pose a threat and must be exterminated. At the very least, the second part, that's all the Emperors. Hey, don't make a fucking religion out of me. Don't make a fucking religion. I don't fucking like religion. That was the Emperor's whole thing. And then he died, and then he became a god. And he seems to be really liking the whole god thing, because he's getting a lot more powerful as the lore goes on. In recent lore, they've really bumped up the whole concept of faith and faith as a psychic power. And people are powered by faith. And sometimes people die and they come back to life because of faith. Not because of them being a perpetual, but because of faith. And
Yeah, pretty much the entirety of the orcs.
well, that's psychic abilities.
Yeah, but it's still sort of related to faith.
I guess you could make an argument of it being faith, but it's more just a psychic gestalt field.
Psychic what?
Gestalt.
Gestalt?
Yeah, so just like a collective consciousness sort of thing. They all believe as one thing, so that thing sort of becomes true. It's over-memed and overhyped just how powerful it is, but there is a truth to it.
Right, yeah.
Red does go faster.
I mean, yeah, that's just that's just a blatant fact.
But
I mean, come on.
orc guns also do work without an orc consciousness requiring the belief that the orc gun works. They are designed by weird boys who have a design to understand. They have a genealogical design that was designed into them by the old ones, so they know how to make things. They don't understand how to make things. They just know how to make things. They slap things together and they go, this will work, because it will work. And it's a complex 10-part engine. But they don't understand how to make a complex 10-part engine. They just know, I need this bit, slap together, engine. That was the weirdest orc accent that anyone has ever done.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt that because I think it was also kind of it wasn't racist in the caricature way. It was racist in that I don't know who you offended, but I know they're going to figure it out and they're going to be so
It was
pissed.
supposed to be a football hooligan or just general British. And I sort of started it and then abandoned it halfway through and then came back in and went with it. But at that point, I hadn't sold it. So it just sort of went...
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how Disney movie is made.
The next one, Cypher. I love Cypher. I say that. I don't really love Cypher, but he...
It's literally just Cypher, that's it.
Yeah, so Cypher is a fallen Dark Angel, maybe. Maybe he's not. Who knows? That's sort of it. It's a guy who knows what his deal is. He's a weird dude and probably worth a video in his own right. So the Dark Angels are one of the loyalist Space Marine chapters. But part of them turned traitor during the Horus Heresy. And the Dark Angels really don't like people knowing this fact. And those Dark Angels are called the Fallen. I think there was some recent stuff with Cypher because they've brought back the primarch of the Dark Angels.
Shit.
He woke up. What?
I'm just looking at his art.
Oh yeah, he's got some good art.
He's a fucking badass. He's got a skull as a
that's
belt.
The thing. He also might be several people. They don't.
Oh great, I'll fire us all over again.
So the role of Cypher was a role prior, and then he joined the Fallen. He was one of the Fallen, maybe, but he's away from the chapter. He doesn't do stuff with the chapter. He is very much just doing his own thing, and sometimes he shows up and fights along Space Marines and has killed Chaos Lords. And they're like, well, he's a Dark Angel. Of course he's fighting alongside us, because they don't know what the fucking deal with the fallen Dark Angels are. They're not in the know that, hey, you can't trust every member of the Dark Angels. So this Dark Angel shows up and is like, yo, bro, I'm on your side. And they're all like, oh, yeah, awesome, cool. And he fights alongside them. And then other times, Space Marines or humans will be fighting and they go, oh, there's a fucking Space Marine on the enemy side. What the fuck? What the fuck is he killing our dudes? What the fuck? And then all of a sudden, he's fighting alongside Chaos and is killing chapter masters of Space Marine stuff. He's doing his own thing, and every now and then in lore, he just pops up and they're like, yeah, Cypher showed up. Then he did some stuff and then he fucked off. He fought alongside Chaos, took a thing. We don't know what the thing was, but he took it, and then he disappeared from the battle.
What the fuck kind of diplomatic envoy is that? It's just... I mean, master of none, jack of all trades.
Yeah, he's just a weird dude. And as I said, he might be several people. There is a loose implication that there's only ever one Cypher, but Cypher has died a couple times and a new Cypher has taken his place.
It's sort of like the Mysterious Stranger in Fallout.
Well, the Mysterious Stranger might be... I'm more thinking of the Phantom.
An alien, yeah.
You know, like the comic
the
book.
Phantom, yeah. Yeah, purple dude.
Yeah, really popular in Australia for no fucking reason.
I don't know, maybe it's just fun to say in our accents. Fucking Phantom.
Yeah, it's just... Like, if you go to any, like, show... Like, you got show bags, which are these shitty bags that are, like, $30 and filled with, like, 40-cent toys. But they always have fucking Phantom comics in them. You can get a Phantom comic fucking anywhere. It's baffling how popular the Phantom is in Australia. But not, like, popular in everyone wants to read it. Just, like, he's always there. He is just... I thought the Phantom was an Australian comic book because of how popular it was. It isn't, but I think the newest writer of the Phantom is an Australian because he was the only fucking person who wanted to write a Phantom comic.
That's how they got you.
No one else gives a shit about the Phantom except for us for some reason. But
I guess we just like weird people in spandex.
Cypher might be the Phantom. He might be a Phantom. He might not be real. Maybe we collectively imagine Cypher's existence.
Nah, Cypher's definitely the fucking reincarnation of the Phantom, just in the Warhammer universe.
So, you want to know something fun? This is the next one. The Sensei.
The Sensei?
The Sensei.
That's what it's called.
So, this was a thing, and it was one of the things that GW had an idea. I sort of mentioned this, where they're just like, we're cooking. This is great. This is a great idea. And maybe they weren't cooking. Who knows? Because they just squatted the whole thing. They just went, never mind. They spent so long hyping up the Sensei and making this a big deal for all of them to just suddenly die and never be brought up again. And they were written off either in the late 90s or early 2000s. I don't quite remember. But they are the biological children of the Emperor. So the primarchs are test tube babies. The Emperor created the primarchs using science and shit and magic.
And yet he still couldn't genetically engineer a son he loved.
Yeah. Whereas, and he's supposed to be sterile. He's not supposed to be able to have kids. However, the Sensei exist. And they're all supposed to be immortal. And some of them have superpowers. And they were trying to take over the Imperium and purge it from corruption or something like that. I don't exactly remember. And then they were working alongside the Illuminati.
The what?
The Illuminati.
They're in the...
And then they all died. All of them, including the Illuminati. They just all died. They also had a lot to do with the Star Children. Not Star Children, that's a Genestealer cult thing, sorry. The Star Child. And the Star Child appears further down, which is what I mean by some of this is weird. That you've got the Sensei at such a high level, but then you've got the Star Child really far down, which these two things are really tied. But the Star Child disappeared from lore until it didn't. So they're just this thing that GW squatted. They just went, whatever we were doing here, we don't give a shit anymore. We don't give a shit to wrap this story up, so we're just going to kill them all and never bring it back. Cool.
Why does it sound like Marvel?
Look, it's comic books. I'll talk about it at the end of the Iceberg. Just sort of... I have thoughts specifically about canon because it gets into some canon stuff, but I have thoughts as someone that comes from the comic book community and how canon works. Anyway, the next one. The Ethereals use mind control to dominate the Tau. Yeah.
The what?
The Ethereals use mind control to dominate the Tau. So, the Tau are an alien race, sort of. Imagine of them being the Covenant, right?
Yeah, we love the Covenant.
Yeah, they are... Look, they are the Covenant. But they are several species that form one group, but also there's a species in there that called the Tau. So there is the Tau that is a species, and then there are auxiliaries that are part of the Tau, but they aren't Tau the species. The leaders of the Tau are a species called the Ethereals.
Okay. You said they use mind control to control the Tau?
Yes. So the Tau, everything is happy and everyone is nice and everything's great. And allegedly, I don't know how true this is because I've heard it from people, but everyone in Warhammer is supposed to be the bad guys. And then the Tau came in and they weren't the bad guys. There was nothing wrong with them. They were good people. And people didn't really like that because it doesn't match the whole grim dark. So they added the grim darkness of the Tau used mind control to... the Ethereals used mind control to control the Tau. And...
You can't be happy you have to be mind controlled.
Their law is, the Tau are basically cavemen in caves fighting constantly. And the different sort of subspecies of the Tau. Like part of the Tau species, but they're set in different castes. And those... they were fighting. And then all of a sudden, one day the Ethereals show up and go, hey, what if we all unified? And then within a very short period of time, which is much longer than I thought it was. I thought it was 2,000 years. I think it's supposed to be like 10,000, which doesn't seem that egregious when you think about it. Like, if you go from human cavemen to existing in space, right?
Mm-hmm.
In 2,000 years, that's fucked. That's like, but 10,000 years, like, we won't be a spacefaring empire, but in about 10,000 years, we went from humans to being in space, like cavemen to being in space. It's not that unusual, but all of a sudden, they just got all these cavemen to stop fighting and become a spacefaring empire. And there's some stuff further down, which I'll explain it a bit more as to how it implies the Tau. But there's a guy called Farsight, and he leads a part of the Tau that have rebelled. And they still believe in the Tau's mission, which is the greater good. They serve the greater good. But he has determined that, and he is considered a threat to the Imperials. The Imperials are trying to assassinate him. And
The Imperials are trying to assassinate everyone.
And the reason he says that is because he realized that the Ethereals aren't needed. Because they were on a mission and the Ethereal that was with him got killed. Like, just got sniped or some shit. And all of a sudden, it was like a fog cleared out of their head. And they were like, oh, right, okay. That we are not acting of our own free will while the Ethereals are around. So then they seceded. And the Ethereals want this sort of control. It's still technically just a theory, strongly implied in law, but it is not officially confirmed in law. Just strongly implied.
Well, pardon me. What absolute fucking assholes, though. Look at these monkey men. I have idea. What if we enslave? Brilliant idea.
The Ethereals look like Tau. They are allegedly Tau. They seem to be part of the same species as the Tau. So it's not exactly monkey men. We'll get into it later because it's on the thing. They might have been uplifted.
Right, so just given sentience, just for her hell of it.
Yeah. So this moves us on to the next bit. Your favorite people, the Alpha Legion. Do you know?
Alpha Legion?
The Alpha Legion are
Alfarius
and Omegon's Legion.
We love.
So the Alpha Legion are loyalists. The Alpha Legion are a traitor legion. They betrayed the Emperor during the Horus Heresy.
Everyone did.
They turned traitor. Well, half of them did. However, there was a prophecy by a group of aliens called the Cabal.
The Cabal. The Grand Cabal.
The prophecy told one of them, I don't remember if it was Alfarius or Omegon, but even then, it could have been they told Omegon, but he was actually Alfarius. So
I'm Spartacus.
They were told if Horus wins, he would be driven mad by his guilt, and in 3 generations start a total extermination of humanity, which would in turn destroy the forces of chaos completely, as the gods are so invested in humanity, it would starve them, and it would bring about the end of chaos. However,
that shocks.
If the Emperor won, he would kill Horus and be in turn killed and interred into the Golden Throne. Humanity would stagnate and decay and feed chaos for over 10 to 20,000 years, and chaos would destroy everything. That is what happened. The Cabal believed that Alfarius Omegon had the power to control who won, and asked them to turn traitor, and help Horus win. Because if they turned traitor, Horus would win. So, Alfarius Omegon, believing that, at the end of the day, the ends justified the means, and they wanted to kill chaos, that was the enemy of the Emperor, they turned traitor to help Horus win, because that killed chaos. However, the outcome was what would have happened if they remained loyal.
Ruh-roh.
And they also just do weird shit from time to time. And...
What, you mean the people that pretend to be each other do weird shit? Who knew?
Yeah, we don't even know if Alfarius or Omegon is still alive. One of them is dead. We know one of them is dead. Rogel I think it was Rogel killed him. One of them is dead. So as far as the Emperor is concerned, Imperium is concerned, they're dead. Because once again, they don't know it's 2 dudes. But, so, one of them is dead. The other is still very much alive. However, how in control he is, there was a recent book that pretty much firmly said Alpha Legion doesn't know what the fuck they're doing.
Which is true.
One of the leaders of the Alpha Legion, Alfarius, they had a big council meeting of all the Alfariuses, and he basically says, we don't know what we're doing. We are just going in and causing chaos. Alfarius had some plan. He had some reason for why we were doing this. But he's dead, and we don't know what that reason is. So we're just doing the same shit that he asked us to do. And we don't know why. But As I said, one of them is still alive. So maybe, or maybe, there was only ever one of them. Because that book is deliberately, the book Alpharius, I don't know if it's called Alpharius, but the book about Alpharius, that's from the perspective of Alpharius, is deliberately a non-reliable storyteller. It literally opens with, my name is Alpharius, this is a lie. And
That's great.
I think it might end with, my name is Alpharius, this is a lie. But I think, if I recall correctly, the plot goes, at some point, Alpharius and Omegon swap. And Alpharius starts going by Omegon, and Omegon starts going by Alpharius. And then Omegon is killed. He is killed by Rogel Dawn. So Alpharius takes the name Alpharius, who is currently Omegon, takes the name Alpharius in honor of his brother Alpharius, who was actually Omegon the whole time. That brings us to the end of this tier. We will move on to the first level of the iceberg, the first underwater level. Okay, so you ready for some words that you know what all the words mean, but in that order it's going to be kind of confusing?
All right, go for it.
The machine god is the Void Dragon.
What's the Void Dragon?
Okay, so the Void Dragon. Oh, this is one of the things I have a picture for. I saved very few pictures for this, but the Void Dragon, I did save a picture because it's one of the best models that 40k has. There you go. This is the Void Dragon.
That doesn't look like a dragon, you lie to me.
Yeah, that's the thing. It doesn't look like a dragon. But the Dragon of Mars, right,
There's a dragon on Mars?
Yes. Is an entity defeated by the Emperor on ancient Earth and is imprisoned in the Noctis Labyrinth. It is loosely implied to be the Void Dragon, a Catan. Remember how I was getting confused between the Catan and one of the other things in fantasy and how they were kind of the same thing, but they weren't? Nagash. I thought Nagash was a Catan.
Right.
Yeah. So Nagash isn't a Catan, and the Void Dragon is a Catan. And the machine god, right, is...
Yeah, that does look very mechanical.
Yeah, is the god of the Adeptus Mechanicus, which is a cyborg cult from Mars.
Oh, yeah. We've played
It's
that game.
implied that the Big E put the Dragon of Mars into Mars because it would then cause sort of like a psychic influence in the Mechanicus, and then that would cause their existence. He sort of planned it out in ahead. It's also implied that the Dragon of Mars is the dragon that St. George fought, and Big E is George. So,
can we just let George be dead?
There's a couple of... Hey, you know this person from history? That was the Emperor the whole time. I think he's also Alexander the Great. However...
What's next? He's fucking Vlad the Impaler?
Probably.
Fucking Constantinople?
I wouldn't be surprised if it strongly implied his Vlad the Impaler. Though I was reading a fan theory that someone was like, I really like the idea that the Emperor is none of these people, and is aware of these people, and goes, no one can prove I wasn't these people. So he's just started telling people I was these people. So,
like, oh, you can put on your resume, I worked at Radio Shack. Who are they gonna call to prove
I see
it?
you also saw
Radio
that
Shack's
meme.
out of business. Yeah.
Company that never existed in this country.
Yeah, well, you can't prove that.
But the Necrons keep trying to break into Mars and showing up underground in Mars, and no one knows why. The thing is, the home system is very heavily guarded, and Holy Terror is such an important location that if the Necrons wanted to hurt the humans, they could just show up. Because the Necrons are very hard to stop. They are extremely powerful. The problem with the Necrons is they're like operating at a perpetual 20%.
What happens if they reach their hundo?
Well, if they reach their hundo, everyone loses. The Necrons literally completed the skill tree and there was nothing else for them to do, so they just went, fuck it, we'll sleep for a bit. Wait for other people to show up, and then we can fight them. And some of them have started waking up early. And that's That's currently where they are. It's the ones that woke up early.
I just imagine they're only attacking because they're grouchy. Because they're like, dude, I was fucking sleeping. I just got to a good part of the dream, and you fucking woke me up.
I've started reading, and once again, reading means listening to Infinite and the Divine, which is a Necron book about immortal museum curator getting into a fight with a time wizard. It's great. I'm currently in the part where they're having a court case. It's great. The time wizard shows up and starts destroying stuff in the museum, and then makes a deal with the museum creator of, well, I'm a time wizard. I can just undo all of this if you just give me the thing. And the guy's like, fine, I'll give you the thing, you fuck. And then the time wizard gets the thing. And he's just like, well, if I undo time, I won't remember that we made this deal and you gave me the thing, so peace. And just leaves.
What an asshole. I love it.
So is the other guy. The museum creator is also an asshole. It starts with him showing up at an Eldar planet, killing all the Eldar, and the Eldar being like, we're literally using this. This is our souls. We need this so our loved this is our history and how we remember stuff. And he goes, yeah, but I want it. So then he just takes it.
Yeah, but have you considered it being mine? It's the Void Dragon at the center of Mars, right?
Yes, maybe. There's the Dragon of Mars at the center of Mars, which is probably the machine god, which is also quite possibly the Void Dragon. Because the way that the dragon is described, the Dragon of Mars is described, it's like it had organic, sort of metallic skin, which very much sounds like Necrodermis.
It sounds a lot like what fucking Cable has.
That's techno-organic virus.
That's what I mean. It sounds very similar.
But if the Necrons, first of all, know where Earth is, and they can just get there and attack it, why do they keep going to Mars? And specifically the underground part of Mars, where the Void Dragon, oh, not the Void Dragon, sorry, the Dragon of Mars is kept. Unless, maybe, the Dragon of Mars is the Void Dragon, and they want their god back. Sort of.
Give it back! Mom said it's my turn to play with the massive destructive monster.
Yeah, look, the Necrons aren't in a good relationship with their gods.
Is anyone in a good relationship in this fucking universe?
The Harlequins are in a good relationship with Kekarath.
I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
The Eldar god that's still alive. That's a decent relationship. That's about the only good relationship anyone has with any of their gods.
It's because all their gods are fucking assholes.
The Necrons essentially created their gods, and then their gods went, hey, we got a good idea to help you. And the Necrons are like, dope, let's do it. And then they ate all of the Necron souls. And then they went, fucking cool, this sucks. This was a shit deal. You really fucked us over here. And the gods were like, yeah, idiots. So then the Necrons captured all the gods, cut them up into tiny pieces, and have stored them in Pokeballs, and throw those Pokeballs when they need them in a fight. So that's why, despite the fact that that's why, despite the fact that the Void Dragon is on Mars, there's still a Void Dragon model, and they can use it in a battle, because it's like, you know, fucking 3/4 of Exodia is in Mars, and they're just like, fucking left arm of Exodia, and someone gets fucking slapped by the giant left arm of Exodia. I know I moved analogies from Pokemon to fucking Yu-Gi-Oh, but you get fucked.
Don't worry, I got it. I got it. Yeah, honestly, yeah. How are we gonna contain a god? Yo, I've got this fucking awesome deck. What if we just, you know...
Trazen the Infinite, the guy I mentioned, the museum curator, also has Pokeballs. And he just stores people in Pokeballs in a... I don't remember exactly how it's described, but it's like a time lock ball. And then he puts it in his pocket dimension that he just has, and then he just like pulls it out and starts throwing it. It's great. I love Trazen. So we'll move on to the next one. This one was weird. It wasn't interesting. It was like, why is this on this list? I'd never heard of this, and then I read it, and I'm like, okay, this is why this wasn't on the list. There's some weird stuff in there, but it wasn't, like, interesting. Which is The Rangdan.
The what?
The Rangdan.
So...
Rangdan. Rangdan.
Ring-a-ling-a-ding, you damn.
The Rangdan were Xenos that the Imperium fought in the 800s of M30. Yes. That might be... Yeah, no, that's right. So, like, getting real close to 40k. Who were possibly created by the Slough and another species of aliens. Humanity...
The Slough.
Yep. Sloth. Humanity fought 3 wars against them to wipe them out, and it was the biggest loss of life inflicted upon the Imperium until the Horus Heresy. None of the official Imperial records are consistent and constantly contradict each other. They also mention that the 2nd and 11th Legion fought during the wars, which are the 2 lost legions, 2 lost primarchs. And that was interesting to read. That was actually like, interesting. Because that's very close to when they disappeared. Because that's very close to the Horus Heresy, and by the time the Horus Heresy happened, they didn't exist anymore. It was also interesting because despite the fact that Alfarius technically hadn't been found yet, he was the last...
Hadn't been found dead?
It hadn't been found. Like, the primarchs got yeeted across the galaxy and the Emperor had to go find them. It was a thing. And...
Where are my children?
He had to go find them one by one, and Alfarius was the last to be found. Maybe. He might have been the first to be found. He might have never left Earth. But...
Jesus Christ, is anything about that guy well known?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, known for
He
fact.
might have never left Earth, and Omega was the one that was launched across the galaxy. But Alfarius hadn't been found yet, but he still appeared during the Rangdan Xenocides, told everyone he was Alfarius, but specifically denied being a Primarch, when all of the other, like, Primarchs were like, yo, you're like 3 feet taller than these other Space Marines, and you kind of got a Primarchy thing going on. Are you a Primarch? He was like, what? No. I'm just a guy, regular guy, Alfarius. Don't worry about it.
He's just Peter. Don't worry about Peter.
So that was an abrupt ending. Basically what happened is Corgi has recently quit energy drinks, and for reasons we just sort of ended up missing our schedule of during the day, so we filmed late into night. Quitting energy drinks apparently turns you into an old person. So we went past Corgi's bedtime of 9:30 instead of what it used to be, which was like 12, because a couple of the episodes were recorded at like 11 at night. So we called it early, and we're just going to film it the next day. And then fast forward to the next day, and Corgi's headphones broke. Just weren't able to record. Corgi is taking this opportunity to buy a better headset. As established earlier on in the episode, Corgi is deaf, and her headphones are at max volume. And I believe they're little earbuds, and then her microphone is a webcam microphone. So you can hear me through her microphone. And it's an ordeal to edit out, and I don't get it out all the time. So that's why there's some weird audio in the background. It's me. It's a double recording of me through Corgi's recording. So she is upgrading a microphone setup to a generic headphone microphone gaming sort of setup. So, it will improve it slightly. Hopefully make it so that you can't hear me, you can't hear every single truck that drives past her house, and you can't hear every single time she types on her keyboard or moves her chair. Most of those get edited out. You don't hear that. I hear it every time, so hopefully it'll make my life a little bit easier. However, the problem is, Corgi also lives in the middle of nowhere, rural Australia. Don't live in the outback. It's shit. It's all desert. I've been to where she lives. It's all desert. There's nothing there. But it also means that it might take a hot minute for her headphones to come in. Or hopefully it should come this week, and therefore there'll be no interruption, and next week's episode will just arrive on time. It does mean, unfortunately, however, I wanted to record 2 episodes back to back so that we were always one ahead, and we won't manage that. we'll hopefully have it out by next week on Tuesday, Australian time, Tuesday, 6:30, Australian Eastern Standard Time. That is the time we aim for. It's the time we've hit about half of the time. However, if we're late, that's why. Anyway, we'll finish up the rest of this line and the whole rest of the Iceberg in the next video. Sorry about this. Thanks for your support. Subscribe if you haven't already to hear the rest of the Iceberg when it comes out. Bye.